Councillor Toy, Councillor Lloyd and Councillor Dixon. Does anybody else have any other apologies? No, thank you very much. So we have the minutes of the previous meeting. Minutes of the previous meeting. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes of the previous meeting? No? Do I have a proposer for Councillor Seward and Councillor Kershaw? Are you happy to second? Thank you. In which case, can we take a vote, please, on the acceptance of those minutes? Thank you all very much. I'm not aware of any public questions or statements. Do we have any?
None received.
Thank you. Items of urgent business. Before we move to items of urgent business, I think it is more sensible to take declarations of interest first, because then that is more transparent for everyone. So if everyone is happy, we're just going to switch those two items around. So can I have any declarations of interest, please, for the agenda items this morning? Councillor Shires.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody. On item 7, I just want to declare a non-pecuniary interest as the member for Haysborough.
Thank you. Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yeah, good morning, Madam Chairman, members. I need to declare also on item 7 in respect of the second paragraph, land which should be south of Cromer and west of Norwich Road. I do know the landowner, he is a personal friend, but it's not a pecuniary interest.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? No? Thank you very much indeed. In which case then we'll return to items of urgent business. And this is regarding the business rates pooling. So every year this decision is taken by the Norfolk leaders as to whether we bring together these sums of money to pool and then use for different projects around Norfolk. You need to be aware that if any one authority decides not to take part in this, then the pool collapses. I will hand over to Duncan Ellis or Lucy Hume, who will give us a lot more information around the way the pool is formed, because I think they'll be more succinct than I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Morning, members. Yes, you've got a report in front of you today. Thank you for taking it as urgent business. You'll see from the report that we do have to give an indication to central government by the 8th of October as to whether we are going to be looking to pool this year. And as the leaders just outlined, if subsequently someone makes the decision to come out of the pool will not be able to form. So there is a level of urgency required. The decision today is for you to consider whether you would like us to pool. You'll be aware that in previous years we've been part of the pool. Last year, for all sorts of reasons, we decided collectively across the county not to pool because we felt the risk was too high. But the position has changed this year. Our provisional figures look like it would be beneficial for us to pool, but you'll also note within the recommendations there is a caveat there and a delegation in terms of the final decision so that we can assess across the county whether it's worth North Norfolk pooling and what the benefit will be to the county. And that's all dependent on the other figures that the other authorities project in terms of the business rates pool. So it has been very beneficial. We have benefited from funding for a number of schemes through previous arrangements. The new arrangements will be in place for the 2022-2023 financial year, and the recommendation from officers is that we should consider this subject to it being a positive position for us. So I'm happy to take questions, but I won't say any more about it at the moment. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask on this? I think it's important to, sorry, Councillor Cushing.
I'm just interested. You say with it, it's been to North Norfolk's advantage in the past. Can you sort of articulate sort of how much of benefit we've gained as an authority as being part of this arrangement?
Thank you, Chair. I think it's roughly £500,000 to ourselves direct. We've had some funding from the sandscaping scheme, I believe. We've got £800,000 or £900,000 for the scheme for the roundabout in Fakenham, and we also drew down some money for the West Promenade regeneration project. And it has had a significant benefit. I think it's in excess of or around £10 million county-wide, so that we have been able to retain that money county-wide for the districts and the county council, rather than that going back to central government. So over the years, it has been very, very beneficial.
Pleasure. I think that's one of the key things to note. The balance looks a bit odd, but if we don't pool this money, then it is lost to Norfolk residents, and that's the important thing here, is making sure that they can benefit. And there is also the option, should the spending review change officers' opinions or there be any problem with that, then we are able to withdraw further down the line. But at this point, the recommendation is to approve, and I would like to propose that, please. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Sewell, thank you. Does anyone else have any further questions before we move to Councillor Rest?
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, just a clarification, please. It says on page 4 that Norwich City Council is above the safety net threshold. I wonder if Duncan Ellis could explain that, please. Oh, Lucy, then. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so the way that this is kind of worked out, this saved levy idea, which is in that table that you're referring to, is basically how much business rates growth a particular authority has had above their baseline level, which the government sets for them every year. So Norwich City Council did not contribute any saved levy within that year. So it means they didn't have any growth above their business rates baseline. Now, the safety net position is set at 92.5% of that business rates baseline. And if a authority falls below that 92.5% level, the government will sort of top them up to that safety net level. That's the minimum level they think you need to fund your services. Now, if you're one of those authorities in a safety net position is in a pool, the government doesn't fund that, the pool has to. So if Norwich City Council was in a safety net position, we would potentially have to pay towards funding that. So all that is just saying is the fact that although they've not been able to contribute any saved levy, which is unfortunate, they haven't been in a safety net position, so we haven't had to use our resources to pay for their business rates take.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions before we move to the vote? It's having been duly proposed and seconded. Okay, thank you. Then all those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Unless any member has a question now, we'll take those as we go through. So recommendations from the Planning Policy and Built Heritage Working Party. These would usually come from the portfolio holder for planning and development. Since he isn't with us this morning, but the chairman of this committee is, I've asked him if he would be prepared to update us, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, everybody. You have the 2 reports in front of you. The second report in relation to land at Cromer is part of the final phase of site allocations by the Working Party. And this will enable us to move to the next stage of the local plan at Regulation 19 for inspection by the inspector of the plans moving forward. We have a working party scheduled for next Monday morning at 10 a.m. Forgive the plug, at which we will deal with a final allocation for Cromer, and then the plan will be complete in terms of site allocations so that we can progress it further, Madam Chairman. I'm very happy to take any questions if members have any at this stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I think it's good to hear that the local plan is progressing. Has anyone got any questions that they would like to ask? No? So I am happy to propose these because obviously chairman of the committee can't, so I'm very happy to propose those. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Kershaw, thank you. All those in favour of these two recommendations? Thank you very much. That's unanimous, everyone. So as you heard, we don't have Councillor Dixon with us this morning, but he did send a message to say that there were no recommendations this time from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So we can move past that. Thank you. So we move to the determination of council tax discounts for the period 22-23. Councillor Seward. Sorry, Councillor Seward, can I ask you to put your microphone on, please? None of us can hear you very well.
Sorry, I thought shall I start again?
Yes, please.
Right. This is a report and a determination we have to do every year around this time. The recommendations are set out on page 13 and 14 of the Cabinet papers. There is only a small change. It's one change this year to add a new hardship relief under our section 13A powers. This will be funded by the District Council, but it's only anticipated to be a couple of cases a year, so it's not going to be financially burdensome, and that is actually set out in paragraph 3.6 of the report. I move the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Seward. Does anyone have any questions on this item? I just think I'd like to comment that I think it's very disappointing that the regulations in place don't allow us to increase the tax on empty properties any higher when devolved authority in Wales can. And I think that would be something that would really help us continue to push that forward. Although we're making good progress on empty properties, that would be another tool in our armoury. And I would hope that that would be looked at going forward with the problem with second homes. Thank you. So this having been proposed, I would like to second this. Does anyone have any other questions? No, in which case can we go to the vote, please? All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. And we move on to the draft procurement strategy. Councillor Seward.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is an updated of the procurement strategy, which in the light of the changes to the corporate priorities is required. It's been updated both also in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic to reflect our corporate priorities and emphasise the increasing importance of using procurement to support wider social, economic and environmental initiatives. And in particular, I would say, if I turn to paragraph 8.2 on page 81, the strategy helps to promote environmental excellence and innovation in the context of combating climate change to help minimise environmental impact. On that basis, I move the recommendation that we approve this draft strategy.
Thank you, Councillor Seward. Does anyone have any questions on this item, please? Councillor Rest.
Thank you, Chairman. Just really to say that GRAC had debated this, looked through all the papers, etc., back on the 28th last week, and we made no objections and recommended the approval to be sent to Cabinet for this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just in case anyone doesn't understand the abbreviation GRAC, would you like to just...
Sorry, Governance, Risk and Audit Committee.
Thank you. Just for anyone watching that would like clarification. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Personally speaking, I would like to see a stronger emphasis on attracting apprenticeships through our CPE, that's Coastal Partnership East procurement strategy. We have an enormous strength in attracting apprenticeships, and I think it's so important, Madam Chairman. We are community leaders. We are in a low wage and low ambitions authority. I think we need to be stronger on this.
Thank you. I don't know whether Councillor Kershaw would like to say anything about that, because we have been doing a lot around apprenticeships recently.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I absolutely agree with what Councillor Fitzgerald said. We are working to develop with the new ARG grant to literally strengthen apprenticeships and vocational qualifications in this area. So I absolutely agree. Thank you.
Anybody else got any comments or questions? No, in which case we move to the vote. Sorry, Councillor Kershaw, you're going to second. Yeah, thank you. Nearly forgot to second. Thank you. So this having been duly proposed by Councillor Seward and seconded by Councillor Kershaw, can we move to the vote, please? All those in favour? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. Right. Customer services strategy. Councillor Shires, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning again, members. I just want to say that this is a customer service strategy. This isn't only customer services, this is how the entire council will serve customers. So it's slightly misleading in the 4 papers, but throughout the strategy you'll see that. And also I would just like to say members will have seen the bunting as they walked in. And it is Customer Service Week, and the council will be celebrating this all week through various channels. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Shires. Any questions for Councillor Shires? Councillor Rest.
Thank you, Chairman. On the customer charter and standards, Appendix 2, under the subheading, if you telephone us, can I please ask for the reasoning behind it, where the clarification has come from, and are you comfortable that we are saying to people that we will answer your call within 2 minutes and 30 seconds? Bear in mind, when we have a development meeting, we give people 3 minutes to present their case. Just for clarification, most people, most companies do not put a time. They put the number of rings that it will be. The average is 3 to 5 rings and the phone will be answered. And Victory Housing Trusts is 5. So I just thought you might want to relook at that. That seems a really, really long time. And I think if the phone's not answered, people put it down. Thank you.
Of course, thank you for your question. I think to understand why 2.5 minutes, you need to understand the entire customer journey. Currently, it can take between 2 and 3 minutes just to get through our menu. So that would make with this quite a long process. What we're aiming to do is not only reduce the menu system, so it's quicker to get to somebody to speak to, but we're prioritising supporting a customer first time with their query. So rather than having somebody to say good morning to then pass it back to somebody else to increase the wait, we're prioritising that the first time somebody calls us, we can help them rather than having to wait for somebody else. Now that might take a little bit longer, but we believe that customers will value having their question answered the first time they call with the first person they speak to. We have moved away significantly over the years from switchboard, and we no longer operate a switchboard here, and that was the reason for the menu, unfortunately. But I'm comfortable with it. And it doesn't mean that we have to stick with this always. It means that we will reduce it over time. But I believe in the best way of being transparent. I feel that this is a fair and honourable figure to give for answering a telephone currently.
Thank you. Does anyone have any more questions? Councillor Cushing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't see any target down here for the number of dropped calls, which would be acceptable. Now, obviously, we've had discussions in the last meeting, about the figure that we were given, or Butkoffer, Rest and I were given at an apprentice interview meeting, about 20% of the council's calls actually being dropped. And I understand from the last read, which full council, which I don't think you were attending, that you were going to investigate whether that was actually a correct figure or not. So I'm waiting to hear on that. But would we actually not also have a target in here for the number of calls which we would actually not drop top calls target? So I think most companies actually do have that figure. Certainly my old one did.
Thank you. I'm really grateful that you've brought this up again, because it gives an opportunity to offer some clarity. So on average, I think, if I remember correctly, we have about 278 calls a day on average. About 278 a day on average at the customer service desk. I believe the figure is on average 14 of those are unanswered. Unanswering doesn't mean that people have hung up. Unanswering could be that data coverage is poor and signal have dropped. It could mean that somebody's delivery has arrived. It could mean that the question that they wanted to ask has been answered because they've gone via the website. So it doesn't necessarily mean that people have given up. However, what we will be doing in reducing our call menu, we will be letting customers know how long they're going to be in the queue for. In terms of, you are number 2 in the queue, you're number 1 in the queue, so that people have got a really good idea of how long they've got to wait, and also so that trust is built that there is somebody answering the call. Within that as well, we're aiming to put an answering machine service in, so if people aren't able to wait, we know that Norfolk residents are incredibly busy, they're able to leave an answering message, which is why we've also put a statement in there about responding to voicemail within 1 working day. So we hope that those 14 people who perhaps without their control aren't able to wait on the line through network or whatever, can leave an answering machine message so we don't miss them. I don't believe that any drop call is acceptable, and I don't think that we need a target, but I'm happy to suggest that we have a target for answered calls, which should be available in a data dashboard for all members to look at through InPhase.
Thank you. I mean, that's interesting statistics. My quick maths is 14 out of 278. It's about 5% drop calls. So it's curious why we were told 20%. Do we get to the bottom of the discrepancy there?
Of course, and I'm sure the previous administration would know of this problem already. So the figure that you were given were calls across the organisation, not just the customer service desk. It doesn't specifically relate to people who can't get through. A number of technical issues are counted within those targets. The other fact that you possibly won't know is that when a call isn't answered by a handler, it will move to the next handler, and that will count as 1 drop call. So if somebody moves between handlers multiple times, that will count as 1 too. But I'm sure the previous administration would be fully aware of this, as the figures haven't changed much in general.
It's not a critical point I'm trying to make. It's back around, we're talking about customer services for the council as a whole. So obviously 20% would be a concern to us all, which was on the day. So, but I think we queried whether that was correct or not. So it's a great question I was asking if we got to the bottom of that in terms of that.
I think we now know where it is, and apparently if you left an answer machine message, that also counted as a dropped call. So it's a bit, the metrics that have been used were not the best for that particular purpose, but I think it was interesting, and I think it's something we all wanted addressed. Thank you. Councillor Kershaw.
Yes, if I could just add, I mean, I was in the meeting when we heard these figures. As far as I was aware, there was also no mention of the figures that have been, the calls that have been made and taken in regard to track and trace with the CCG. And I think that was extra work for operators that they carried out very well. So I'd like to thank the officers for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else got any more questions on this? No? In which case, can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kershaw. All those in favour? Thank you. That's unanimous. Councillor Fredericks, People Services restructure.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, members and officers. This structure has been put forward to you today. It's been worked around the ambition of enhancing this council's already excellent service delivery. And it's in line with the current remodelling of services of the council. So it brings together 4 different teams working as one, which I find is an incredible achievement. And it will just enable that to happen more efficiently and more effectively. So I would just like to thank all those involved in formulating this plan and pass over to Karen Hill, Assistant Director, and myself to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions on this? Councillor Gay.
I'd just like to second this proposal, if I may, Madam Chairman. This final iteration here, I think, provides a very clear portrait of what is going to happen, why it's going to happen, and how it will benefit our residents. So I'd like to second this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cushing.
Thank you. I have to say, I'm not remotely sympathetic to this at all. Your administration has already fattened the management structure considerably, and if I'm reading this correctly, we're putting another £500,000 into management roles. The focus I would like to see of the council is looking at actually how do you actually improve the services in terms of streamlining them and making them more efficient, just to actually roll in more additional roles. I think if we look at the next agenda item, we'll see that we've got another 72,000 in there, so that's actually nearly £726,000 of extra costs going on more staff. That seems to be the wrong direction entirely for me, I have to say.
Thank you very much. This money is already in our reserves. It's already grant funded as well, so it's there. We're not charging it our residents any more money for this. It's basically to streamline the service and bring benefit to the North Norfolk resident. If you've been dealing with the general public, as I have, over the pandemic and also over the last 2 years, we find that there's a growth in need out there. There's people that are suffering, and we need to get to them quickly. And this people's restructure, as I say, will not cost the taxpayer another penny, but it will bring improvements that will help get help faster to these people. It's just not fair that they have to wait so long. And this will help speed up that delivery. So I don't know if Karen wants to add anything to that.
Sorry, could I ask you to use your microphone? Do you want to try the one the other side of you?
Sorry, it's a while since I've used the microphone in
No, that's
years.
okay. Thank you very much. It's just so everyone at home can hear as well.
Okay, so thank you, Councillor Fredericks. Yeah, just to confirm that the majority of the funding for this paper is burdens funding from government, which hasn't been spent thus far, and the remainder of it is income which is generated for the purposes of actually delivering a better service for the customers who contribute to that fee income pot. So it's actually looking at putting forward a proposal to spend that money in the most effective way. I think we have had some difficulties due to COVID in terms of planning our services, and really the restructure has given the opportunity to bring these services together and to look at what they need, and to really look at using this money to pump prime, kickstart the development of a new ethos of service delivery. I think that's the key to it, really. We're looking at the services being very much prevention focused rather than crisis management, and we're also looking at ways in which we can focus on self-sustaining the services through various models such as invest to save, and expanding on the offer of the services that we have so we can help more people, and in the same way support the delivery of our very much needed statutory services. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think one of the things I'd like to say is that this report brings together different departments working together. We have seen just last week, when our council won, our finance team, together with our IT team and various other parts of the council, working together out of their silos, delivered a superb result for businesses during the COVID pandemic and received recognition from SIPFA for that last week with an award. And actually, I think this is just another department taking forward that attitude of working together to deliver better for our residents. So I think actually, you know, I think we strongly commend this report. Councillor Withington.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to comment on this, not so much from my district councillor hat on, but with my Sheringham Community Support hat on, where we're dealing with, and I'm sure Councillor Adams will have similar views, where we're dealing with lots of people who have complex issues and trying to support them within the community, and to have a department that is now so fully coordinated and be able to know that once we get in, we're not having to go through different streams. And I think that will be hugely beneficial for our residents and those people trying to support them as well. So thank you very much. I hope this moves forward.
Thank you, Councillor Withington. Councillor Gay.
Thank you. I think something else to add from points 1.9 and 1.10. This will also allow this council to perhaps attract additional funding, because there will be people to work to achieve that funding, and also to increase the level of income generated. So there is also the possibility of bringing in more money for the benefit of our residents as a result of this change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gay. Does anyone, Councillor Cushing?
Thank you. Picking up on those replies earlier. So perhaps you can articulate then the actual what performance targets are going to be improved. Do we actually have something where we can actually measure the benefit that we're going to get from the extra £486,000 spent on the salaries of these individuals? What areas can we see? We're going to see the metrics coming through for that. What are they, please?
Okay, so I answered the question there. So there will be a number of key areas where we will be working as soon as we have the structure implemented to actually put those metrics in place. But the key ones are going to be on preventing homelessness, reducing the number of people in temporary accommodation. Those people that do have to go into temporary accommodation, it will be a much better offer of temporary accommodation, so quality, and hopefully that we can keep more of our homeless people in temporary accommodation in the district rather than necessarily having to move them out of the district. I think those are things that people who are homeless will, you know, appreciate very much in terms of keeping them within their communities and close to their support networks. Some of those things I think it's quite difficult to put numbers and metrics against. It is about quality, it's about helping people who have very complex situations. So those are going to be, that's going to be one area that we're going to focus on. But in terms of things like disabled facilities grants, we are going to be looking to commit the budget we have to help more people with that budget, and not only to help people with grants, but to help people who are self-funding and who want some help but find it difficult to access contractors in the market. So it is very much about numbers in terms of delivering more, but also the quality is going to be a key emphasis.
Thank you very much. Did anyone else wish to speak on this item? Councillor Rest.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I just wondered whether we're able to put a sort of figure on how many people you are currently assisting with all of these services. Does it fluctuate a great deal? And I appreciate the COVID issue, but I just wondered, and I'm just trying to think how many people in this district are benefiting existingly from what you're doing. And obviously with an increase in staffing and funding, one would think you'd either be able to do more people if we need to, or more will be spent per head. Karen, have you got anything on that?
Yeah, most of these things are reported on a monthly basis to the portfolio holder reports, reported through in phase. We do have some service specific information that we give to the portfolio holder and discuss on a regular basis as well. These things are also communicated in our homelessness strategy, and we will be looking to, as part of one of the service improvements, put together an annual plan for a report, if you like, on DFG activity as well. So all those things will be much more transparent, building the capacity to enable us to plan and program manage. So that information is going to be key.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wishing to say anything on this item? Councillor Seward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is a paragraph in this report, paragraph 3.2, which specifically sets out how success or performance will be measured. And in preparing this report, Cabinet members did specifically ask for that, because if you're going to put in this level of investment, you want to have some measure to ensure that in fact we'll get the improvements, or hopefully that you're actually seeking with this extra investment. So that's why it was specifically put there. And that should actually tell us, as we move through this, the benefits hopefully that will arise from these additional staffing posts. What we do know is that we are struggling to deal with homeless cases and finding temporary accommodation. Those figures are rising. We also know in the case of disabled facility grants that we're not processing things as quickly as we would like. That's why we need to have additional staffing in there. We also know that too much of the existing supervisors or management's time has been spent actually dealing with casework rather than supporting and developing staff. That is not a good practice. And lastly, out of all of these reserves, it's not actually council taxpayers that are actually paying any more for this. For every £4 that are in those reserves, just £1 is being spent actually on these additional resources. The reason we've got paragraph 3.2 in there is to ensure that there will be improvement, and that can be measured. And the remaining £3 is actually spent on this service, the actual service outcomes, whether it's better housing, more housing, or more grants going out, rather than just personnel. So it's got to be looked at in that context, and the Cabinet, in preparing this paper, was anxious that that should happen. Thank you.
I think it's really important to say that, we take very seriously our responsibilities towards our residents and their needs, and helping them have the better life chances moving forward. Thank you. Anybody else got any more questions? In which case, it having been proposed, do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Gay, thank you. Right, can I take a vote, please? All those in favour of this? Thank you very much, that's unanimous. Right, moving along to the use of housing reserves to enhance delivery. Councillor Fredericks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. This report highlights the use of housing reserves. I'd like to highlight the energy officer post. This is aimed at tackling energy poverty in our district. Obviously, with energy prices rising to 25% or more, this is really a timely post that we could fill, and they'll be identifying grants that we can actually pull down and help our residents in the private sector. I'd like to draw attention to the shared ownership scheme. A lot of the affordable housing brought forward is it's been allocated as shared ownership, and I was really keen on converting some of that back into affordable rented, which seems to be the most needed type of accommodation at the moment. And also the rent guarantee scheme. So private rentals could be guaranteed for landlords' peace of mind, and that we could access more private rented accommodation for a resident. So again, I'd like to thank the officers, and I put this forward for cabinet consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any questions on this item, please? Councillor Rest.
Thank you. On page 133, item 2.11, it says that the energy officer will be responsible for. Who is the energy officer responsible to?
Thank you. The energy officer will be responsible to the assistant director.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Sorry, Councillor Christian, I couldn't see your hand there.
Very quick one, actually, in the same paragraph, on page 133, 2.11, it says we anticipate. That sounds more like hope. Is that a fact? Is that just a wording?
Thank you, Councillor Cushing, and I'll look at that, and it's actually intention. That's what we want to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, we have an officer here who indicated that he'd like to comment on this. Councillor Mr. Connolly. Thank you, Councillor Brown, for assisting.
And forgive me, Councillor Rest, could you quote the rest of it? I don't have the.
Sorry, can I ask you to move a bit closer to your mic? And Councillor Rest, can I ask you to turn your mic off?
Sorry.
That's right. Thanks.
Okay, so the question about anticipate, so the 22,500 is dependent on the successful grant application. We don't have the outcome of that yet. So we'll know this month or early next month. So that would offset some of the cost of the energy officer if successful.
Thank you. Let's hope that the government are a bit quicker on making a decision on that than they have been on the community renewal grants. Anybody else got any more questions? Right, in which case that's been proposed. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Shires, thank you very much. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Unanimous. Right, last item on our agenda this morning. I'd like to move to Councillor Gay, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. In beginning this report, I'd just like to pay tribute to our member champion for the Armed Forces, Councillor Toy, who has done all of the work behind this proposal. And what this proposes to you this morning is essentially that the District Council produce its own covenant for the benefit of the Armed Forces. We have been part of a larger one in the past, but this is to make a specific commitment on the part of North Norfolk District Council alone for what we would like to do to help and to express our gratitude and support to our armed forces. So it's quite a simple proposal before you this morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gay. Do we have anyone wishing to comment on this? Councillor Fitch-Tillett.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. Very happy to second this. Particularly pleased that this council is paying attention to armed forces. I have family members who've been in all three of the armed forces and a very proud member of Northwest's Royal British Legion. So more than happy to second this. They have had a tough time in all sorts of reasons. Afghan particularly recently has come to the forefront, and we should pay great deal of attention to our army veterans, who some of which are struggling greatly.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any other comments that they would like to make on this? No? In which case, it having been duly proposed and seconded, I'd like to move to the vote, please. All those in favour? Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the agenda this morning, but I just wanted to put on record our thanks to the teams that have worked cross-party, cross-silo rather. So our finance teams, our IT teams, our customer services teams, economic growth, of course, hugely key player, in this. And to Councillor Kershaw, who himself has put a lot of time and effort into making sure our business grants got out quickly. I think, we had some criticism in the beginning that we were slow getting those grants out, but actually it showed through our processes that the council did a superb job. And I would like to put on record my thanks to all the teams involved. And I'm sure Cabinet would like to join me in thanking them and passing our congratulations to the team for the SIPFA award they won last week. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the meeting. Thank you all very much indeed for attending this morning.